Hi, this is Anthony P. Ferrante, director of the Sharknado quadrilogy, including Sharknado: The Fourth Awakens, airing sci-fi on Sunday night. And you're listening to Without Your Head.
Welcome to the station of decapitation without your head. I'm Nasty Neal, and I'm joined by Ryan Bellgardt, the director of Gremlin. How are you doing?
Hey, Nasty Neal. How you doing, man? Thanks for having me.
Mm-hmm. What was that? I'm sorry?
Is your name Nasty Neal?
It is Nasty Neal. It is Nasty Neal.
Yeah.
It's my given name.
I said, hey, Nasty Neal, thanks for having me.
Oh, well, excellent. I'm glad you're here. It's good to talk to you.
Oh, man. Hey, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. So for people who don't know what Gremlin is right now, can you give them an idea of what the movie's about?
Yeah, sure. Gremlin is it's our second feature film that we did, and the story is about a family that gets this sort of mystical box, and inside of it is this little creature that comes out and kills everybody that you're, if you get the box, and it comes out and kills everybody that you love or everyone that you're attached to one by one. And there's a timer on this box, and we don't really know what's going on with the timer, but it's ticking down. And the guy that's got the box attached to him finds out that the only way that he can get rid of the curse is to pass it along to someone else that he loves. Mm. And so that's what kind of the movie is about, is him trying to figure out who he can give it to. And after he learns what he's supposed to do with it, kind of like figuring out who does he love enough that he can pass this thing off to and save his family. And that's kind of what it's about.
Mm-hmm. Is that particular mythology based on anything?
No, it's just based on it's mostly based on the idea that I wanted to do a CG creature feature, and I thought that it would be kind of like economical to have a box where the creature lives in, and that way I could show the box a lot, and it would represent the creature. Mm-hmm. And the box is sort of like easier to like. This all kind of was born from us wanting to do a short film and just sort of do some testing with some CGI creature work that we're working on, and just wanted to do some kind of a little test. So I wrote this little 10-minute short called "Give It to Someone You Love" that was going to be about this box mostly, and at the end of it, like a creature comes out, and so I was like, yeah, we can just do a few creature shots in this little short for practice, but the short can be, for most of it can be just this box that represents the creature. Well, we decided to develop it into a feature, and that's kind of. I kind of like the idea. I mean, I love the movie It Follows, and I was just thinking, I wonder if there's some kind of like emotional attachment or some kind of like, magical curse or something on this thing that, what would be the hardest thing to have to do to get rid of it? It would be to like pass this killing, creature off to someone that you love. And so I just thought that would be a fun way to put our characters in sort of no-win situations, which I like doing.
Yeah, I like the mythology behind it because it does seem like something that would be like a real myth or an old story, and then it kind of adds, some history to the movie.
Yeah, one of the fun things we got to do is towards the end of the movie when the mythology is revealed and there's like sort of a mystical woman that sort of goes into the whole background of the story in the box. It was really fun to write that because we actually saved that for the very last thing that we did, because when we put the whole movie together, we were like, okay, I'm going to save that mythology part for if there's anything that's like hard to understand about if like maybe the audience or people watching haven't like figured out like what the box is or what it's doing, then we can sort of explain it in this exposition part of the backstory and the mythology of it. And we had a pretty deep and intense sort of like mythology of what this creature was, where it came from thousands of years ago, what happened, and all that stuff. And we sort of simplified that a lot and just pared it down to kind of a re-explaining of the rules. And there's like visual hints of like kind of what can happen when the timer runs out, but it doesn't really go into too much of like the actual mythology of the creature. Although outside the movie, we did write a whole mythology of, where this creature came from and what it was and all that stuff. But we don't really get into that in the movie.
Yeah. Do you think when you do something like that, even if it's not seen, on screen, it kind of helps the movie or the story you're trying to tell?
Yeah. Oh, of course. Us sort of knowing what this creature was, it helped us come up with, it helped us kind of come up with its motivations, and it really kind of changed the way that we perceived it to be what it is. And, it was kind of like, it's not a malicious, like, just killing machine. It's a god or an alien or whatever you want to call it that's like trapped in a prison. Mm-hmm. And it's like, so like, you know, our kind of mythology that's not in the movie was that it was like, you know, some kind of an alien creature that like lands and like somebody 1,000 years ago takes part of that technology and kind of like captures it in this cube and uses it as a weapon against his own loved ones and or against his like, you know, enemy tribes or things like that to like spread sort of like a Trojan horse inside of like his, you know, and so there's all this sort of stuff that we came up with that kind of helped us understand what the creature is. So at the climax of the movie, when the timer finally does run out and when the creature does what it's doing, it kind of like makes a lot of sense to us that it becomes kind of a King Kong moment where it's not necessarily trying to kill the world or take over the world. It's just trying to survive. Mm-hmm. But people don't really understand that. So that's something that, you know, I didn't really feel like it was necessary to like go into all that detail in the movie, but it was something that really helped us when we were formulating the story and putting it together.
Mm-hmm. Who designed the box?
I did. I designed it. I realized after the fact, it looks almost exactly like the Meeseeks box from, Rick and Morty, but I mean, almost exactly. Yeah, I mean, I just kind of looked up sci-fi boxes and just reference and just kind of like, you know, it sort of came from functionality of what we needed for the story. So it was kind of a neat process. I mean, I modeled the box, the 3D model inside of a program, you know, Maya, that we use to do 3D models and stuff. And then I sent it off to our prop builder. And he's in Belgium. His name is Emilio, and he 3D printed it. And then, so we had an actual, you know, real box. And then it was kind of cool because he 3D printed it, and then he sent it back to me. And then I got some, what's that stuff? It's like the metal rub and buff that I just kind of like painted it with the rub and buff to kind of give it a metallic look. Mm-hmm. And then I took those, when I had the box all painted the way I wanted, the actual physical box, then I took high definition pictures of the textures that I painted, and I mapped those to the digital version of the box. So there's a lot of shots in the movie where the box is digital, and I think we did a pretty decent job, I think, of like not being able to tell. There's probably a few shots in there of that digital box that looks just as good as the real actual box because we just used pictures of the real actual box to map onto the digital box. So it worked out pretty good. I mean, we tried to do the whole like spinning ring and the opening like top of the box. We tried to do that practically by actually building little contraptions that would like spin it around and move it down. And it just didn't work. We just didn't have the kind of the means to make that look good. So we just replaced that stuff digitally, and it just for what we were able to pull off, it worked better.
Yeah. Did you keep the box?
Oh my gosh, man. I was just talking about this. It's funny because I was talking about this. Oh my. But no, I don't have it, and it's a horrible story as to why I don't have it. So there's a scene in the movie where the character tries to get rid of the box by throwing it into the lake, and it was the last thing that we shot for the movie, and we had a few different boxes. We had 3 different ones. One that we needed to burn, one that was sort of our hero box that was going to be the one that's you know, in close-ups and stuff like that. And then we had another one that we were going to throw in the lake. So when we got there, we brought the one to throw in the lake, and we brought our hero one. Well, the one that we threw in the lake, for some reason, we threw it in the lake, and we just did not get the shot. Mm-hmm. And we couldn't go into the lake and get it because we didn't know how deep the water was, and we couldn't go into the lake and go after it. Mm-hmm. And it was one of those deals where it's like a one take. We get one chance at throwing the box into the water. And we did it. We threw it, and it went in the water. And we're like, well, it didn't look good. Mm-hmm. And so we were like, well, what are we going to do? We don't have another box. Well, we have the hero box. And I'm like, okay, here's what we'll do. We'll tie a string to the hero box, like fishing line. We'll tie it to the hero box. We'll throw it in the water, and then we'll just pull it right back out. Mm-hmm. And everyone on my team was like, I don't know, you might lose it. It's a bad idea. And I was like, but we've got to get the shot. And so I didn't listen to him, and we threw it in the water with the string. Well, it wasn't as heavy as the other one, so it just kind of floated there. We fished it back up, and we're like, okay, we need to like make it heavier. Mm-hmm. So I found this big rock, about 2-pound rock or something, and put it inside the box. And we threw it into the water, and it just snapped the fishing line and just went straight down into the water. Now, the good news is we got the shot, and that's the shot we used. The bad news is that like we weren't able to fish it back out of the water, and the hero box was like gone forever, lost. And I was just like so sick. I mean, all of us were just like, oh, it's gone, and we just felt so sad. And then here's the funny thing, man, is in post when we looked at the shot, I think we ended up using a CG box anyway to go into the water to make it look better. So it was just kind of like the stupidest thing. I feel so dumb, but you know, when you're kind of in the moment, you just sort of like do what you think you need to do. Mm-hmm.
So any scuba enthusiasts, so if they find that lake, they could go there and potentially find two boxes.
Yeah, one of my buddies, Chris, who's also a producer on the movie, said he went there the next day to see if he could jump in and try to find it. And he said, you know, one of the people at the lake were like, "Hey, don't go in that water because it's like full of fish hooks and barbed wire and all kinds of dangerous glass bottles and stuff." So he just stayed out of it.
So you originally said you wanted to make a CG monster movie, and why would you want to make something like that? That didn't sound nice, but why? You know, what was your reasoning behind that?
Well, I've been doing CG work sort of as a hobby for about 10 years, and I've been kind of practicing and trying to get better. And with Gremlin, I thought it was our first opportunity to apply what I had learned and use it in a feature film scenario. You know, we actually, you know, it's interesting because like I know a lot of people like puppets and practical effects and doing things practically, and I actually like mixing real and practical. Practical and CG whenever I can, because I think that really looks good and works really well. And we went so far as to even build a puppet of the Gremlin that we thought maybe we could use in close-up shots and kind of give it a, you know, something that we thought would work. And we had a puppet built by the same guy who built our box. And he did a pretty good job. I mean, he did a really good job of making the creature. And it was just one of those things where we just didn't have the skill or the time to like make it look just right and make it look good. Like we tried one scene with the puppet where it was like crawling on top of the grandmother's chest or something. And you know, we looked at it and it took us a long time to get it just right and to film it, to have it move around. And at the end of the day, when we saw it in post, I was just like, you know, it just looks like a puppet moving around, and it's kind of stiff. It doesn't have the kind of range of motion that the CG creature might not look as tangible, but I can make the CG creature do whatever I want. And this little CG creature is like running around the movie the whole time, like jumping on things and running around and doing all kinds of stuff that it would be very difficult, if not impossible, for us to do with a puppet for this kind of creature. So I totally get the aesthetic of it, and I like it. And it's so hard with digital and CG to replicate the same thing as that. But for this type of story and for our skill sets, it just sort of suited us better to be able to use a CG creature. And that's just kind of like something I've been playing with and wanted to try to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I did see your name in the credits at the end too, not just as, you know, director and everything, but with the special effects. And like, so what's your background in CG? Did you go to school for it? Is it just something you've been finishing?
No, I didn't. About 10 years ago, I just picked it up as a hobby, and I got online and used. There's a great website called digitaltutors.com that you know taught me a lot about using CG and about Maya and all different types of After Effects and programs like that help do this stuff. And it really took me that long, though, to feel confident enough that I could even attempt to try to put the creature into a movie. You know, I mean, it's hard, and it's definitely takes a lot of time and a lot of practice and I needed help. There was about 150 shots or so of the Gremlin in the movie, and I brought on a great girl named Stephanie Roach, who came in and did all the animation for the creature. And she did an amazing job, because I tried it myself and I was like, yeah, it just doesn't look like it's moving very naturally, and it's hard. And she came in and was just so naturally skilled at it and did such a great job. She ended up animating the creature in all the movies. But yeah, I mean, I really just kind of did it as a hobby, just for something fun, because I really enjoyed it. I like the idea that you could have a blank canvas in a program, and then like literally build anything that you can think of. And I just thought that was a really, really fun and exciting thing to do, and just something that could help me, you know, bring creative ideas and creative things to the movies that we're trying to do.
Mm-hmm. Now, when I read the review of Gremlin on our website on Without Your Head, and from Jason Mitten, and he and you already know about this, but when I read it, he references sci-fi movies, and so going into the movie, I really didn't expect to like it because I'm not really a big fan of the sci-fi movies. Sometimes I can find them like funny and stuff, but Gremlin is much darker than those movies and not like as cheesy. You know what I mean? And I'm sure some people like those kind of cheesy fun horror movie, but it's a much darker movie. And I think kind of having the label of a sci-fi movie, if people like those, maybe they'll still like it. But I think it's a much different movie than like a sci-fi original.
Well, yeah, that was kind of my goal, and don't get me wrong, I enjoy the sci-fi movies. I kind of like exactly what you're saying. I agree with. I mean, I like that stuff, and it can be fun to laugh at or make fun of. And
right.
Our first film, Army of Frankensteins, was very much like that. It was kind of a goofier, kind of like cheesier kind of thing. And that's the thing is like we did that movie, and we realized that we saw how audiences reacted to it. We saw how they like groaned and laughed and all that stuff. And for Gremlin, I was just like, I wonder if we can do a story that's dark and that can make people uncomfortable and can make people kind of like, there's certain scenes in Gremlin where I think the audience might not really know how they're supposed to feel. And that was something I was kind of trying to do intentionally to just sort of see if that was, that's the part of filmmaking that's really fun to me, is that you get the chance to tell a story that can kind of like affect people emotionally and make them, and it's fun. It's fun to be able to come up with a scene or an idea that someone might find disturbing or dark or something or scary or funny. And that's something I wanted to do with Gremlin. And in the initial draft of it, it was even darker. It's weird because I wrote it in a very compressed time, and I just kept getting. It's funny because I was telling my wife, I was like, man, this is very weird because like here I am, on day 7 of like trying to figure out ways to kill a family. And it was very like I kind of myself got into this sort of like dark mindset, and so the creature in the original script was like just unkillable. There was no way to win. There was no way to beat it, and everyone was going to die, and that was just the way it was going to be. And after kind of putting that together and talking to my team, we just kind of decided, that's just it's too dark. It's too depressing if like everyone is dead at the end of it for this one. And so let's see if we can have just a tiny bit of hope at the end. And we sort of changed it to the ending that it is now, where what happens now at the end. And I'm glad we did, because that's kind of my favorite part of it. I like it. I like the way the ending is now. It's really, it kind of hints at becoming a sci-fi movie at that point,
right.
But it's fun. And I like that about it. But you're right. It's dark. It's dark and kind of depressing,
Yeah, but that worked for me. It's not what I expected going into the movie. I liked it a lot more than what I expected, and I think it really embraced the curse aspect of the storyline and kind of showed what that means. And I don't want to spoil the movie at all, but there's one line by one character, who says like, it's killed everybody I loved, and it was I was like, wow, this is a lot different movie than I expected.
Well, that was the thing that I found fun about it, was that I was able to focus on a story. Like that was kind of my goal. It was like, can I focus and make this a story that might be interesting without, even if there's not a creature or there's not a CG creature running around? And is there a way that like these characters can be put in these situations that are like literally like no-win situation? And it's kind of an unlikable hero, and it's kind of an unlikable, it's like they're already not like the best people. They're not very good people. And so like to see them have to like deal with it and kind of find out what's really, really important to them at the end, I think was something that I was kind of striving for.
Yeah, that was another, expected. It's like we're kind of right away you find out like the dad's pretty much an asshole in the movie, and which actually kind of comes into play later on in a plot, point in the movie. I don't want to give much away, but there's a lot to the movie. I liked it.
Thanks a lot. And it was a really fun movie to do and write, and it was kind of fun to play with like all these rules that the box has and try to get this family to find out what the rules are, sort of in a way that they were finding out as they were going, that they couldn't destroy it and they couldn't they had to pass it along a certain way and only to certain types of people and stuff like that. And that was a real challenge to sort of write. And it's kind of tricky to write the characters to make decisions that make sense. And sometimes they don't make decisions that make a lot of sense, but it's just like for the idea of like moving the story forward and putting the characters where they need to be, we just kind of felt like, well, yeah, I mean, if they called the police every time somebody died, then it would just be a movie about the police coming over.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
I was just saying that's also part of the movie I liked is because sometimes I think that's overlooked in horror movies, especially ones about like supernatural things. Is like what would the police think about all these people that are dead? They're not going to just show up and say, and you're going to say, hey, a monster came or a ghost came, and they'll be just like, oh, okay, that makes sense, and you're off the hook or anything. But
well, there's a crossroads, and it's interesting because a lot of reviews that I'm reading are mentioning this point of the movie where they're saying, well, I'm not sure about the decisions the characters are making to not call the police or to do what they do with some of the bodies, and it really is that it's like we struggled with that part and really thought hard about how to handle that part, and it's just kind of like we try to think through it logically, like if this really did happen and you were faced with like 2 dead bodies very quickly in your immediate family, like the police were already there researching one of the bodies, and the very next day you say, hey, by the way, there's another person that was brutally murdered here. Mm-hmm. Like, what are they going to believe? And like, you're immediately going to be a suspect, and we just couldn't have that in our movie with our guy being a suspect and going to jail because that just didn't work. He needed to be with his family, and so we had him make the decision to not tell. And honestly, it worked for me because he's a guy that you find early on is he's having an affair with his wife. I mean, he's got a girlfriend on the side. They're going through a really hard emotional time because they had recently lost another child in their family through different circumstances. So to me, it was like, this guy's character hides stuff. He's hiding his affair. He's hiding. It's his natural tendency to hide problems and run from them and not face them and stand up to them. And so I thought it was right for that character to do that. And it's part of his arc. And what I think later on, he kind of like realizes that, there's more important things, and he's got to stand up for his family and what he loves, and makes sacrifices. So I don't know. That's kind of what I tried to get out there. I'm not sure if it actually did or not, but I tried to do.
Yeah, and I like that the son has his own box. That you find that early in the movie, so I don't want to give anything away. But yeah, I just like that the son has his own box that he is like his protection.
Yeah, I mean I like that too, and it kind of reminded me of like when I'm sure a lot of kids can remember playing in cardboard forts and boxes when they were kids, and it just to me kind of represented again like a place that it represented safety to him. So like that box represented safety, and the other box represented terror, and I thought that was kind of just a fun thing to do. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, and kind of like what you're saying about the backstory of the creature, which I didn't know beforehand, but kind of watching it kind of seemed like it was trapped in that, and so the box to the one is like a prison, and to the kid it's protection.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And we just had a lot of fun, man. It was just really fun for me to have this character, the dad in the story, mm-hmm. to have to be faced with these like horrible sort of decisions, and I think that as the movie kind of moves along and things seem to get more and more desperate, it becomes more and more. I just enjoy that aspect of it quite a bit. Mm-hmm. But
I just want to say I don't want to throw Jason under the bus. He's a great guy and does our movie reviews, and he's a good guy.
Well,
uh-huh.
Oh, well, it was really funny because when I heard that you guys wanted to do the phone interview with me, mm-hmm. I had read Jason's review, and he gave us 1 out of 5 severed heads, and mm-hmm. and I was like, "Wait, are you sure they want to talk to me?" Uh-huh. But hey, to be honest, I thought his review was very fair, and what he said, I thought I didn't really have any issues with. I mean, people are certainly entitled to feel the way they feel, no problem, no doubt. But then when I got down there to the bottom and I saw 1 out of 5, I was like, wow, yeah. his rating system is harsh.
Yeah, he is very harsh rating. Yeah, but I will say, like you said, he is always very honest, and it's never just like this sucks and there's no explanation or anything. There's I think constructive criticism in his reviews.
I actually, it might sound, maybe it's cliche or weird, but I actually do appreciate it. I do appreciate constructive criticism, and I try to read, every review that's written about it, because I really do want to see the common threads of what people reacted to and didn't. And I think that's something that helps me grow as a filmmaker, as I try to make more of these movies, to try to figure out, like, okay, that this worked, this didn't work, and I don't take any offense, or I don't get mad, or I don't get upset. I think that there's only been one time I've kind of been upset at a review, and it was when the reviewer accused, it was not for this movie, a different one, but the reviewer accused me of trying to make a bad movie on purpose. And I was kind of like, no, I wouldn't want to do that. I'm not trying to make a bad movie. It's like, I'm trying the best I can to make the best movie I can with what I have and the resources I have. And it might not end up being a good movie, but, it's just like, so many people work so hard on it, and there's so many, it takes a lot of people to put one of these things together, and they put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into it. And, I don't think anybody would appreciate it if I was walking around saying, like, hey guys, it's here we are on day like 64 on this thing, and are we having fun making our bad movie?
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think everybody wants it to be good and wants to make the best movie they can. And but I'm fully aware that it's a steep learning curve, and I want to get better with everyone that I do. And it's really interesting to hear different reviewers' feedback and different audience members' feedback, because honestly, something that Jason might not have liked, there's been other reviews where the reviewer liked the thing that he didn't like.
Right.
So that's something that's always interesting to take in and realize that, there's no way you're going to please every single person every time, especially in a genre like horror, when people are very protective of their feelings toward what they think is a great horror movie. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah. And
so it's all good. And Jason, if you're listening, thank you very much. No hard feelings. Let's go have a beer sometime.
Excellent. I just met him for the first time in Texas. He's a good guy. But
okay.
Yeah. Can you tell us about Army of Frankensteins, your first movie? Because when I was looking you up after watching Gremlin, I saw that this was a movie made. I went and watched the trailer, and it actually I actually want to go see it, because it does look like a lot of fun to me.
Well, you can actually, if you have Amazon Prime, you can watch it for free.
Oh, really?
Right, it's on there now. So that was about 4 years ago. We wanted to make that movie, and it was just sort of a stroke of luck for us, because we wanted to make a Frankenstein movie, and we thought, you never see like a big army or a big group of Frankenstein monsters fighting. It's always like, mummies or vampires or zombies or something. But I just thought it'd be funny, the big green lumbering Frankensteins all fighting together. And then one of my partners here said, yeah, you didn't throw them all back in time, like to the Civil War. So we were just like completely joking about all of it. And we just kind of kept coming up with thoughts and ideas. And eventually we had enough thoughts and stuff on paper that we were like, okay, well, let's make this movie. And we all, to get a little bit of background, I mean, me and my guy, Josh McCamey and Andy Swanson, guys that I work with, we actually work at a production company. And so it's like an advertising agency called Boiling Point Media and production company. And so we make a lot of videos, and I mean, we've made like, tons and tons of commercials and music videos and corporate videos and things like that. So we wanted to make Army of Frankenstein just something to do in our spare time, just to sort of break up the monotony and just have some fun. And Josh had made another feature, and I saw that he made it really cheaply and it looked really good. And I was like, well, hey, let's make a feature. And so we tried it and we did it. And it's, we didn't really expect anything to come of it other than just something fun for us to do. And because there was like 5 other Frankenstein movies coming out at the same time, they had Frankenstein's Army was coming out, and I, Frankenstein, and a bunch of them were all coming out. Sales agents and distributors started getting interested in us because they wanted another Frankenstein movie to compete with the other ones, or just, or maybe confuse people and buy ours on accident or something, So, right. So we started getting interest from sales agents, and we signed with a great one. And his name's Galen Christie with High Octane Pictures. And he's been so amazingly helpful and instrumental with us moving forward and helping us produce the types of movies that can get noticed. And that's kind of why, something with Army of Frankensteins, which I really thought was fun, was that we used the name incorrectly in the title, and we knew that people would be mad and upset And we hoped that people would start flame wars about, well, Frankenstein's the name of the monster, or the doctor, not the monster, and they did. I mean, as soon as it started getting any kind of publicity, there was people that would start these threads about, just totally ripping it, and we knew exactly what we were trying to do there. We were just trying to get people to talk about it, and it's kind of the same thing with Gremlin. I mean, the original title was going to be something else, and we just were kind of like, hey, what if we called it Gremlin? And I was like, there's no way we can call it Gremlin. There's got to be another movie. I mean, first of all, Gremlins, hello, and then. But I went on IMDb and I looked, and there was no other movie called Gremlin, and I was like, that's crazy. And then because obviously Gremlins are not strictly the 1984 family movie. They're the story of the mythology of Gremlins has gone on for a long time before that. So
something on the wing. There's a man on the wing of this plane. Yeah,
right. So we just we went with it and ran with it, and of course here we are now. Doing publicity for Gremlin, and a lot of what we're getting is you've ruined my childhood and things like that, and that's great because it's people arguing about it, fighting about it, talking about it, thinking it's something that it's not, and then checking it out anyway, and that's without like a big movie star in our movies. I mean, that's the way that we're able to get people to look at them, and it's working. So
I like that. I should cut that clip out where you just said people are saying we ruined their childhood, and that's great. I think that's a good line.
Well, I'm not trying to ruin anyone's childhood.
No, I know, but the way it came off was very funny to me.
Yeah, I mean, they are. They're kind of, it's because they think that this is a remake of that movie or a sequel to Gremlins, and then they see what it actually is, and they get upset because it's not what they wanted it to be. But what's cool, and what I'm finding is you guys and other people are talking about it, and maybe considering like what it actually is, and seeing it for maybe a dark or interesting story or something like that. And that's cool, because that's really what I'm trying to do. Is like, yes, we have to do some things to get people to look at it, but me as a writer and director, I'm like, I really still want to try to tell a good story. So it's like I love me a good asylum or sci-fi movie anytime, but I really want to try to make a story that's interesting, as much as possible.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Army of Frankensteins is it's a lot different. I'd be interested to hear your take on that, because I had a guy recently reach out to me, and he said, I'm a big fan of Army of Frankensteins, and I want to do an interview for Gremlin. And I said, yeah, sure. Let me send you the Gremlin screener. And so I sent it over to him, and a few days later he contacted me back, and he said, well, I really didn't like Gremlin, so I'm sorry, I just got to be honest with you. And I was like, oh, okay, that's fine. So it's just, there are a lot of different movies, and that's it's just because I wanted to do something different, So
yeah. Well, I mean, I think any artist, in any medium, doesn't want to just keep doing the same thing.
Yeah, it's about like I said earlier, kind of like growth and just trying to get better, and like experimenting, like figuring out like I love watching our films, with an audience, because I get to watch what their reactions are, and sometimes they're completely different than what I imagined that they would be. There's a scene in Gremlin where, you probably know what I'm referring to, where the mom is down talking to the daughter, right? And she's having this very emotional moment. And in the screening we did, the cast and crew screening, people were like laughing, and it was very awkward because it's not funny.
Yeah.
And so people were laughing in the theater, and at first, for the first few seconds of the scene, and then the laughter died down, and I kind of looked around the audience, and people were just like, really like tuned in to that scene. And afterwards, I asked some people, like, hey, why were you, did you hear laughter, or were you laughing? Why were you laughing at that scene? And they just said, because we were uncomfortable and didn't know how to feel, and I was like, ooh, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's not what I was trying to do, but that's neat that's what happened. And now I can kind of maybe understand that reaction a little bit, because I knew when we did that scene that it was going to be kind of messed up and something that like is not, you can't really relate to it. Like no one ever does that, what this mom does. So, it's kind of a hard thing to imagine yourself doing or relate to. But I don't know. It's just, that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. It's like sort of like trying things out to see how they work, and then when we do another film or move forward, we're like, okay, that totally didn't work, or that did, or whatever. You know, it's how you get better, I think.
Did Gremlin play at festivals? Like, where did you see it with an audience?
We had a cast and crew screening here. Soon after we had got it all finished, we did a cast. We rented out a theater and did a big cast and crew kind of like screening where all their friends and family came, and it was a big packed house. It was really fun. Actually, tomorrow we're our U.S. premiere is happening at the Dead Center Film Festival in Oklahoma City, and that's where we're based out of, is Oklahoma City. So we're excited to play it there. But we honestly haven't really submitted it to a whole lot of festivals. The VOD release for Gremlin is July 11th, and so it'll be available on all of the VOD platforms on July 11th, and on demand and all that stuff. So that's, and then I believe, I'm not really exactly sure about the other, like if there'll be like a hard copy release or when. I think there will be, but I'm not sure when. And I'm excited about all that stuff. And so for that reasoning, we didn't really submit to a bunch of festivals and do a big festival run with it, as opposed to Army of Frankensteins. We did a lot of festivals and played all over the place with Army of Frankensteins. And I think it was good to do it. And I met a lot of really fun people and made a lot of friends doing that. But I think for us, it was just kind of like, okay, we spent a whole, I almost said wasted. It wasn't a waste, but we spent a whole year, doing the festival circuit. And it was a year that we weren't making our next movie, and I think that we sort of are in the mindset now that as soon as we're done, we're on to the next one. And so like, even with Gremlin now about to come out, we've already got our third feature called The Jurassic Games edited, and it's ready to go into post, visual effects. And I mean, it's like, T-Rex fights and all this stuff. So it's a lot, we sort of amped it up and are trying to push ourselves even harder to do something even bigger and better and more, kind of with spectacular CG effects and all that stuff. It's just the kind of stuff we're trying to do, because we know those films they're doing well for us and overseas. I mean, internationally, Gremlin's doing really well, and we know that Jurassic Games will too. So because of the, we're hoping that it does, because of the dinos. Everyone loves dinos fighting. Right. So it's kind of the thing that we're trying to do with our films, is appeal to international audiences and try to keep our themes, very, kind of universals, like everyone kind of understands a monster chasing around somebody and trying to kill them. So that's kind of why horror does well internationally, because it's easy to understand even if you don't speak the language. Yeah.
I saw an interview with you at, I think it was from a festival for Army of Frankensteins, and you talked a couple things. You talked about you had like part 2 and 3 in your mind, and at the time, like I think you said it was gonna. I think it was Japan. You said it was gonna be playing in, and you thought it would do well there. And did it do well in Japan?
I don't know. They never told me.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know. I mean, it's. I know that it's hard to judge that kind of stuff, and it's hard to, like, the level that we're at, it's like hard for us to see, without getting too deep into all this stuff. I mean, it's kind of like, we don't really count on seeing lots of like back end returns. So we don't really know, you know what I'm saying? It's more of like an upfront deal. So like when the Japanese distributor purchases the movie the rights to distribute it, they kind of give you an upfront amount, and that's just kind of it. You know what I'm saying? So like how it does over there, I don't really know. I mean, I was able to kind of follow it a little bit, but it was like, in Japanese. So I had to, it was kind of hard to Google it and sort of see what was going on. But, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how it went, but, I know that like, Gremlin is opening, actually tonight in Malaysia, in Malaysian theaters. Gremlin will be having preview screenings tonight, and it's opening like cinematically all over Malaysia, and it's already had an opening in the Philippines. So I'm able to sort of see how it's doing. Like I know that you can track the Malaysian box office and stuff like that, so we might be able to see a little bit how it's doing over there. But it is kind of exciting because it's really exciting because like it's opening like right along, like it's so crazy. You can choose to see Tom Cruise in The Mummy, or you can choose to see Despicable Me 3, or you can choose to see Gremlin, which is like blows me away.
Yeah,
you know,
that's gonna be pretty awesome.
But yeah, it's really cool, and it's not something we, you know, it's just one of those things, a little milestone you kind of reach, and you're like, okay, so you know, I can't go see it, and I can't be a part of that, but it's happening over there, and I can kind of follow it, and I can kind of see people's reaction to it, and another thing I can kind of learn from, and sort of hope that, you know, we can eventually, you know, make something that can be have that type of release closer to home, you know. So we're working towards that every time.
We have a lot of independent filmmakers on the show, and some of them have different views on the festival scene. Some of them do think it's not worth doing. They've had bad experiences, just not necessarily bad experiences, but they said like it costs you a lot of money to get the movies at different festivals and not necessarily anything back from that. Just what are your personal thoughts on getting your movie at the festivals?
Wow, man, there's a lot. We could do probably a whole show on that. I mean, I have mixed feelings, honestly. I think that there's a fantastic benefit to doing the festival circuit, especially kind of early on in your filmmaking career. For our first movie, it was great because I got to meet a lot of people all over the country that were like-minded people who are filmmakers who we've partnered with and worked with on other projects. So, like in that respect, it's really, really great. I think the one thing that I get a little bit worried about on festivals, especially if you submit to a smaller one, and say you submit a movie to a small festival and you win like best director or best feature, and you keep doing that and you win maybe a bunch of best feature awards or something at these smaller festivals. What I worry about is that you start to believe that you really are a great director or you really have made the best feature. And I think that's the thing that's a little bit dangerous, because I think at that point you might not grow as much as you could by getting actual real feedback on your film. Because you know, like, I'm not saying these films are bad or they don't deserve those awards, but the competition in those things it kind of depends. I mean, do you want to compete against the other people in that festival, or do you want to compete against, like, you know, the world? And in the world, like, people are judging Gremlin against, you know, Insidious and all these things that have, like, you know, way bigger budgets and way bigger resources to make their films. So, like, I want to compete with those people, and I want to see if we can get audiences to enjoy our films as much as they would enjoy anything. And I think to do that, I can't go around thinking that I'm, you know, hot stuff because I won Best Director at, you know, my hometown small film festival. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's I've just seen that a few times, and I try to just sort of, like, you know, I mean, it's cool to be honored like that. Don't get me wrong, but it's not. I hate that would maybe make someone start to actually believe it, and then feel like that they're making great films and they don't need to improve themselves. And then as far as, like, if you're trying to make a sales movie, it kind of depends. I mean, if you're trying to make a festival movie or an artsy kind of movie, or nothing wrong with it. If you are, festivals are great. But, you know, if you're trying to make a sales movie, then I think that one thing that can happen is that if your movie is playing around in a bunch of small festivals for a long time, then potentially a buyer might say, well, hey, this movie has been playing around for a long time and it hasn't done anything, so it's old. You know what I'm saying? So distributors and buyers, from my experience, are, like, always excited about the newest thing that nobody knows about. And they want to discover it, and they want to find it and be the one that can blast it out. And that's something that if you've been playing the festival circuit with your film for a year and a half and nothing's really happened, then you can kind of have your film can have sort of an aging effect, you know, like it's been there for a long time and nothing's happened. And so it's like all that stuff is like when to put it on IMDb and when to start promoting your film, and all that stuff needs to be thought of very carefully, because if you do it too soon, then it can look like your film is really old.
Yeah.
You know, like Army of Frankensteins is timestamped 2013 on IMDb, and that's because it played at AFM November of 2013. Well, the movie didn't actually get released until, like, September of 2015. So, like, you know, it's like that kind of was something that we learned from, because it's like, man, I don't want the movie to come out 2 years after it's posted about, you know, because, like, everyone by then's lost interest. You know, so I think that's something that to be careful about. But the good side is screening in front of an audience, getting you know, reaction and feedback from people and it's good to get positive. It's good to get positive feedback too, and affirmation too from people that are rooting for you. And usually, people at festivals want your film to be good, and so because a lot of times they're filmmakers and they want to say, "Oh yeah, okay, look, they can make this, I can make this." And so I think that's cool, and that's a really cool community of people that are there doing that. So to answer your question, good and bad. I mean, it's kind of what you can kind of get out of it what you want, but just be careful not to take too much time or, away from actually doing what you should be doing, is making movies.
Just on creatures themselves. Well, what are some of your favorite horror movies or creature movies?
Oh man, well, I love the old xenomorphs from Alien. That's one of the creatures. Like, my dad showed me that when I was like a kid, and it really freaked me out and scared me. And so it's something that I love that creature. I love how cool it's still, to me, that movie still kind of holds up and just seems really scary and cool. Jurassic Park was another one for me that I remember watching that in the theater probably 12 times because I was just blown away by how real it felt to me. And I think my love for sort of like that kind of filmmaking kind of started then. I was probably in high school around that time, and I just was really blown away by that kind of stuff. But I don't know, man. I'm trying to think if there's any other big creatures. I mean, obviously I'm loving Pacific Rim or King Kong or any like giant creature stuff. I'm always gonna like. I didn't love King Kong Skull Island so much. I wanted to, but those kind of creatures and stuff though are always really fun. Just something that's just like bigger than life, and more than the creatures for me. It's more about just like building a world and kind of creating like a bit of escapism, because to me that's the kind of thing that's what I got out of those movies, was like another place and time and world, and somewhere that you could go for an hour and a half and not be in your suburb. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's what I kind of liked about movies overall. And it's not that I necessarily love creatures or I necessarily love Frankenstein. I mean, it's not that I don't. I do love them, but I didn't like grow up thinking, I'm way into big monster creatures and I'm going to make movies about them. It's more like, hey, we can make a movie about a big creature and it'll do well and it'll be fun, and it's more like that. You know what I'm saying?
So what movies did you grow up liking? Like, what were? I know you liked all these things, but what was like your favorites?
Oh man, I actually like John Carpenter's. I mean, probably my favorites of all time are the Spielberg's, like Close Encounters and Goonies. I'm kind of a kid of the '80s, so I like that stuff. I liked. I remember watching like movies like House, like old horror, that old horror movie when I was a kid, and being freaked out by that. And of course, all the Nightmare on Elm Street and the Friday the 13th were always fun for me as a kid to watch. But I guess I'm kind of nostalgic because the movies I think about are the ones that I grew up with. So like something like Big Trouble in Little China is like a really great movie to me. It is. It's just like, because it's just funny and got great characters, and it's just such a fun like adventure. So so yeah, man, I mean, that kind of stuff, the Goonies, the Dark Crystal, like stuff that's just like I said, kind of like stuff that really, really plays on, this is not something you're just going to see like around the corner. There's some kind of like magic to it, or some kind of something that's not usual. And or whether it's a place or a creature or a time or something like that, is something that I've always really enjoyed. And, I love science fiction. I went through a phase in my 20s where I read like all the, Hugo winners and stuff. So I'm a big fan of like that kind of stuff. Just good stories and other worlds.
You mentioned your dad showed you the Alien when you were a kid. So were you allowed to watch like R-rated movies or violent movies? I was.
Funny because You said you weren't?
I was, yeah. It never was a big deal for my mom. So
I remember my dad would like he'd show me Terminator and Alien and just stupid stuff like that. And I always remember he'd sit next to the VCR by the TV, and I always wondered why. I was like, why is he doing that? But it was because he would fast forward through like the sex scenes.
Oh, okay.
So I'd be like 10 years old, and there'd be like, I don't remember something like Sarah Connor's, having sex in Terminator or something, and he would like fast forward it, and I'm just like, Yeah, I wasn't going to tell him, but it's like I can still kind of see that, so it was okay. But so yeah, it was all the violence and like people getting their heads ripped off and stuff, no problem. But the sex, he always fast forwarded right through that.
Yeah. So has he?
But it totally shaped me, man. I mean, I think it was cool. It was cool that it was cool that he did it, and I think that like even now with my kids, I've got an 8-year-old, 9-year-old son, and a 17-year-old son, and my 8-year-old son will sit there with me while I'm working on the computer, and I'm working on a shot of the gremlin crawling out of somebody's stomach, and it's pretty gross and kind of gory, and he's sitting there over my shoulder, sort of like coaching me and telling me like, oh, it needs to look bloodier and stuff like that. And I think it's cool because he understands the magic of what's going on behind the scenes, and so he's not scared of it. He sees it kind of how we see it, which is like it's a magic trick.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's cool.
Yeah. And so I don't know is your dad still alive? Did he get to see you become a movie maker?
Yeah, he has. He's told me, and it's very cool. He's told me that he's proud and he likes our movies, and it's like I'm like it's kind of, I still kind of like I'm from a pretty conservative part of the country, right? So but I don't really hold back in our films. I'll put fucks or whatever, and I don't care. But I still like when my mom and dad are sitting there watching, I'm still kind of like cringing a little bit every time I know there's going to be like someone dropping an F-bomb or whatever.
Right.
But they're fine with it.
Now you're the one who gets up and fast forwards over scenes.
Right, exactly. Well, like my mom is like, she's like, hey, your grandma wants a copy of Army of Frankenstein to play over at the nursing home for everybody. And I was like, she really doesn't. She really doesn't. And she's like, no, she does. And I was like, I was kind of against it, but she did it anyway and found a copy and played it anyway. And I heard it went okay, but I was just like, no way. There's no way that, a group of octogenarians at a nursing home is gonna like this at all. But they did it. They watched it. So
that's pretty awesome. So who designed the cover art? Because I like it, but it does kind of give away a lot of it.
Yeah, the orange one with the big, that, mm-hmm. Well, I mean, there's two kind of like, we can get in, I'm sure you can edit this if it gets boring, but like basically the original cover art is kind of made for sales, so it's like, if you Googled around, you could probably find the first trailer for Gremlin, and it has a big spoiler in it too, mm-hmm. So it's kind of, it's more like those posters and trailers are made for buyers, and to show them, they don't have the patience to watch the whole movie and see if there's something cool at the end. You know what I'm saying? So what we need to do is we need to make sure we give them we kind of blow our whole wad in that trailer and on that poster and be like, this is what this is, and then they get to see it right away. And that kind of helps with distributors and international distributors who want to maybe possibly pick up the movie. The blue cover, which is the creature poking its head and hands out of the box, mm-hmm. is a lot more what we would use for like a release poster and a release cover art. And that's and the trailer is the same way. The new trailer that we did, released a few days ago, is edited to be, leave a little bit of mystery and not give away the ending. And the same with the new poster art. I'm not sure if you've seen the new ones, but they don't have the big giveaway on it.
Okay. No, I haven't seen those. Yeah. They might have sent it to me actually here, but I haven't seen it. But I did bring up the sequels to Army of Frankenstein. Will you ever make those?
I doubt it. I doubt it. Yeah. I mean, it's funny, man, because like you sort of we're trying to like stay, we're trying to make things that are kind of relevant, and that always kind of changes, with what people's tastes are and what's coming out and stuff like that. And it's one of those deals where if Army of Frankensteins was a huge breakout hit and like everyone loved it, then sure. And if it would make sense to make another one and it would make more money, then I do have the ideas for them, and I have outlines for a part 2 and a part 3. But I'm just as equally excited to start on a brand new idea and a brand new concept to move forward. And because with Jurassic Games, that one would be perfectly suited for a potential sequel too. So I mean, maybe we do that. I don't know, but it's just kind of like I kind of take it as it comes. I don't know. I'm not really working. I may be working one movie ahead, but not not any more than that. So it's like if it made sense down the road, if I don't know, I mean, it would probably have to take like a long time would have to pass, and somebody would have to find it and decide that it was all of a sudden culturally relevant and it become popular, and then we would maybe be like, oh, let's make a sequel, you know. So,
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's just it all kind of depends on how well it does, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But
and well, where can people follow the Gremlin online and yourself? Do you have social media pages for people to follow? You know,
I mean, I'm just on Facebook, mostly Facebook. It's just Gremlin Movie. You know, it's easy to find there. And then me personally, you can just find me on Facebook too, Ryan Bellgardt, Bellgardt. And just shoot me a message, or if you want to. I always love talking shop with people or seeing other people's films, and it's fun. I really enjoy networking and meeting other kind of guys that are into doing this kind of stuff. So yeah.
And who designed the? I know you you and person you mentioned before did like the
Stephanie,
CG, Stephanie. But who designed the actual look of the Gremlin?
It's really cool because it's actually a rejected creature concept from the movie The Thing, the new one.
Oh, really?
So yeah, so it was a rejected one that they didn't pick for the new Thing remake, and we were able to find and track down the guy who worked on it. I would butcher his name if I tried to pronounce it because he's overseas, and it's a very difficult name to pronounce. But anyway, he's based overseas, and he created that monster, and we were able to get it and use it, and he kind of gave us his blessing. And I actually didn't even know about the whole relationship to the Thing until after we had already started using it and stuff. So I thought that was actually, when I found that out, I was like, oh, that's really cool. It's something I can say, and it makes it sound cooler, you know? So,
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's like the budget's low on the movie. And so we have to kind of look for things that have potentially already been designed to save us some money. And we were able to find that, and it seemed to suit our purposes just fine and work out well. So,
and it comes out 7/11 Gremlin.
7/11, yeah, on all the VOD platforms.
And what are your thoughts on video on demand? How does that help an independent director to get their movies out there?
Well, you know, it's funny because our situation is not necessarily like, after it goes to our distributors, we don't really know what they're going to do with it, or what they, that's kind of up to them. So I'm sure that getting it out there to as many people as many eyeballs as possible is ideal. I know that. So I don't think it's a bad thing. But again, like the way that we kind of have done business in our business model is a little bit different than, we're not doing self-distribution, or we're not doing a situation where we're like going right to the aggregators ourselves or anything like that. So I can't really comment on that because I don't really know. I know there's pros and cons to that. I don't know if I have a actual opinion because I don't really have a whole lot of experience. Like, basically the process is that our distributors and buyers, purchase the rights to distribute the movie, and then however they distribute it and whatever they do with it, they can even change the name or like a lot of times you ask me who made the artwork. I mean, those guys do. You know, like we don't usually make the key art or things like that. It's kind of, and it's actually kind of funny because the Army of Frankenstein's key art, the guy on the cover is not even in the movie. So I don't know where they got that guy, but he's not in the movie. So yeah, I mean, it's just kind of fun stuff like that, but yeah, not really. I mean, I think it's great. I mean, I'm excited. I'm excited that people have the opportunity to find it and watch it. I know that. So, but man, I also love DVD and Blu-ray, and I'm excited that there's a little bit of like what I'm hoping is kind of a resurgence, especially in these types of movies, of people who like to collect hard copies. And I personally like holding a hard copy in my hand of a movie that I love, and I really do miss the Blockbuster video experience. I think there's one family video left in our area, and it's just kind of like I vividly remember every weekend walking in there, browsing the aisles, picking out movies and some Twizzlers, and going home and just watching movies all night. And that's something that I don't think has been replaced by being able to stream it on.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
So the fact that the movies are still being able to be released on disc, as long as that continues to happen, I think I'll be happy, because I get a chance to, get a copy and see people with their copies, and I mean, it's just kind of cool. It's like it's a thing, it's a thing that you've made and a thing that you can hold, and it's tangible. And I think that's something that, especially as someone who's helped create it, is something that's just kind of means something different,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I have a stack of DVDs right here next to me. But I remember as a kid going to the video store, VHS store, because we had a local, we didn't have Blockbuster, we had a local family-owned one. And when I went to school, with the kids of the parents who owned it, and they'd print out a calendar every month, and each day would be something different. Like, it would be joke day, you tell them a joke, and you get a movie for 99 cents, and they'd report cards. Cool. If you bring in a report card, and you get a free movie if you have like an A and stuff, and it was a lot of fun.
Oh, that's really cool. Well, and the thing is about those local sort of like mom and pop video stores too, is that I feel like you could find stuff that was like really obscure.
Yeah.
That you might not find otherwise. And I remember there being, like all kinds of like weird horror movies and just like really crazy things that you would never otherwise find being at the video store, and you'd pop it in and it'd be really fun,
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that'll ever make a comeback or not. It's kind of neat to see the resurgence of VHS, and I see like some of my friends are releasing their horror movies on limited VHS runs and stuff, and I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool, but I wouldn't have a way to play it. But
yeah, I think it was weird because, like you said, they're coming back, putting them out like limited editions. But I think it was just last year that the last company that still made VHS players, VCRs, stopped making them.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So you'd have to get one that's already
you better
made.
Get on Amazon or something. Get some of those. Get those. Yeah, they're gonna be rare collector's items.
Yeah. Plus, with the DVD or Blu-ray, I mean, I like watching the specials, the documentaries, and I'm a big fan of commentary tracks. So, you can't get that if you just watch it online.
You know what? And we actually are working on that kind of stuff for the Gremlin disc release, and so we're actually going to go into the studio and record the director's commentary. And I'm glad you say that, because I really don't know if I haven't done one yet before. We didn't do one for Army of Frankensteins. We wanted to, but we never did. So the chance to do that kind of thing. Now, let me ask you, like, what kind of stuff do you like to hear when those guys are talking about the film?
Well, it's one or two things, because sometimes they're just entertaining because they're telling silly stories. But I think probably what I like better is, I like that. I think you have to have a little bit of that too. But I like a lot of the technical stuff, because we've had some people on the show too who are independent movie directors, and I brought this up with another person I just did an interview with. Was a lot of them learned a lot of things from listening to the commentary tracks, which I find interesting. Not maybe they didn't even go to movie school to make movies, but they learned different aspects just from watching the commentary tracks, which I find very interesting.
Yeah, well, that's for sure. I'm glad to hear that. I think that as we that's probably the way I would approach it, is more of like a kind of, here's how we did this, or here's why we did this kind of approach. And maybe sprinkle in some funny stories if we can think of them. It's kind of hard to think of funny stories for Gremlin, because it's kind of depressing.
Yeah.
But we do have, there's some pretty funny stuff that happens on set that just, but that's cool. I think I hope that the hard disc like lives for a long time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In theaters too. I hope that people continue to see movies in theaters for a long time, because it feels like that's where they're supposed to be seen.
I agree 100% with that. Now, my co-host normally on the show, and she's on hiatus right now, is Annabelle, and we have a couple local theaters in Boston that show art house movies, and they also show old movies, and every weekend they have midnight movies, and it'll be usually some weird horror movie. And even if I've seen it like a bunch of times, there's nothing like going and seeing it on the big screen like it was meant to be seen.
Yeah, absolutely right. I mean, I love it. I love, and it's fun to like sort of understand like the technical aspect of like putting the the digital cinema pack of the DCPs, together to play it on a big screen and a big digital projector with all the sound and surround sound and all that stuff is it's something I love, and it's something that is really like the ending climax of Gremlin is really, really cool on a big in a big theater with surround sound, and I know a lot of times on a home system, or especially if you're just watching it on your iPad, you're losing a lot of that experience.
Yeah, definitely. And there's something, I think, when you're in the theater and you got the big screen in front of you, as opposed to if you're on your computer and you're probably looking at your phone, or you might have other things open. Like the movie's right there, and I don't want to say like you can't escape from it because you don't want to, but you have to pay attention to it. And to me, it's a totally different experience.
Oh, I totally agree. And then also the communal aspect of it, of being with other people that are reacting to it with you. And I think it's sort of like being a large audience watching a film can be really fun too, especially depending on the type of movie, but especially like a scary movie or something. So I think that's, I hope that sticks around for a long time. And I think kind of the current trend of it's kind of, it's kind of disheartening to see that the only movies that seem to be doing well in the box office are like the big giant, superhero blockbuster movies. And I just hope that there can be a return to. I think everything's cyclical though, and it's like it's not going to die. It's just going to be different. Yeah. Yeah.
I did mention that, so I do want to mention by name. It's one of them is a Brattle Theater, and that's in Cambridge, and Coolidge. I forget the actual name, but it's around Boston. And but Coolidge does the after midnight shows every Friday and Saturday, and they're a lot of fun. And in Halloween, they do a 12-hour marathon every Halloween of an original 35 millimeter, and it's always a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, that's super cool. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah. Sometimes you have to pick a movie you might not be into, and that's the one you can take a nap during, because 12 hours is a long time. It's midnight till noon the next day. But
oh yeah.
But it's a good time. Wow. Yeah. So I had a lot of fun talking to you today.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun. I appreciate it, and thanks for the opportunity to let us talk about Gremlin and Army of Frankensteins and other stuff coming up, and I just really appreciate it. It was a lot of fun.
Cool. And again, that's 7/11. It's easy to remember. Gremlin's coming out.
Yeah.
And not just because you're here, I'm actually going to go watch Army of Frankenstein stuff.
Well, hey, after you do, man, send me a message and let me know which one you liked better. I'd be interested to know that.
All right, very good. So,
thanks.
I'll tell Jason too. Maybe he'll review it.
Okay, good. Yeah, say hi to him for me.
I definitely will.
Okay, man.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot, Neal.
Yep.
Bye.
Have a good time. Bye.
This is Mark Polonia, low-budget filmmaker, and you're listening to Without Your Head.